What's up, Amazon sellers? Welcome back to the Wednesday edition of the weekly, twice weekly, bi-weekly, I don't know, live Amazon news and Q&A show. We're going to share some e-commerce news, talk stats, maybe occasionally a business maxim, none today. And we're going to answer questions, of course. So you got a question, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, Keepa question. Drop it in the chat. I will get to them. Hopefully, all of them. We're gonna be running a tight hour today. I have a choir concert that I have to attend, but we got a full hour, so there's plenty of time to get the questions in the comments. Get them in the chat. I will give it my best shot, or at worst, I'll defer you until Mr. Grant is back as my co-host on Sunday. So I am your eremitic host. Decent, not quite as good as last Wednesday. Chris Rasick. And I'm going to guide you through the news and deal with your questions. Just pop them in there. Good to see everybody. Thanks for showing up. Artem, what's happening, my man? Karen, nice to see you. Joseph, hello. Becky, Deal Hunter. Glad you guys decided to show up. Glad you're hanging out. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. So certainly doesn't mean I won't get to your questions. But what we're going to talk about is probably likely to talk to bring some commentary. I think I think some of the things that I have to share with you today is probably you're probably going to have an opinion on them. So let's get started, right? So what's the very first thing that we want to talk about? We want to talk about the fact that Amazon gave us a light squeeze today, right? There are emotional support marketplace just gave us a light little squeeze, a fee nominal increase, if you will, fee nominal. Amazon just announced that its 2026 fee update. Surprisingly, it's not the gut punch that we've come to expect most years, but it's also not the no fee increases that we received for this year in 2025. FBA fees will rise by an average of 8 cents per unit. That's an average, or less than 0.5% of the average selling price. That is objectively a modest increase, especially compared to, like they cite in the email and the bulletin that they posted, especially compared to the 3.9 to 5.9% hikes that we've seen from UPS and FedEx over the past 2 years. It's hard to argue against, right? Amazon says it's making the fee structure more granular, meaning some products might actually get cheaper to fulfill if your packaging inventory levels or inbound shipping choices align with their lower cost strategies. They're also promising improvements like fewer lost units. Don't keep it down. Keep it down. Don't wait till I'm done before the laughter ensues. They're promising improvements like fewer lost units, faster removals, and new profit analytics to help sellers track how fees affect their margins. So in short, Amazon's charging a bit more, but they're framing it as pay a little, get more efficiency. If we take them at their word, I don't mind that, right? Why does it matter to us? Well, this one's pretty obvious. This was pretty easy to fill out this section of why it matters. It is, like I said before, it's a modest increase, especially by Amazon standards. You know, an 8 cent average bump is practically restrained compared to inflation, which they actually brought up in the communication. Compared to inflation, and it's also compared to other marketplaces, right? That's about what eBay did. That's about what they raised some of their categories up to as well. Shopify is also nudging its payment processing rates upward each year as well. So we are not being singled out on the marketplace. Still cheaper than the alternatives. I can make an argument for that. FBA's logistics efficiency still undercuts self-fulfillment and 3PL routes, if you factor in storage, labor, and carrier fees in most cases. Even after the bump, Amazon's cost per delivery remains below UPS and FedEx retail pricing. It's true. The interesting part, this is the most interesting part that I thought, Amazon's PR angle. The wording was very, very interesting, and I flip-flopped a couple different ways in how I interpreted it. They're flexing the restraint, right? They made sure to bring up that they didn't raise fees in 2025. So they're trying to portray themselves as the reasonable marketplace. Again, you're not going to be able to hear me if you keep laughing like that. Other carriers quietly hiking rates. Amazon's proclaiming, they're just flat out saying it. We're keeping costs down. We're keeping the increases minimal for small businesses, right? And tell me if you can't see that being reprinted in PR and congressional hearings, right? So, look, I'm going to be Switzerland here, okay? I'm not going to change anyone's opinion, all right? Nor am I interested in changing anyone's opinion, okay? If you think Amazon is screwing sellers, you're going to continue to think Amazon is screwing sellers. If you're a little more rational or less emotional about it, this is mostly a non-issue. 8 cents per unit. You know what? After we get through the peak fees, after those go away, this is, even with the slight increase, it'll be less than what we were paying with peak fees. So you can look at it that way. I can make a case both ways, right? Did they were they a bit patronizing? Yeah, they sugarcoated it. They bringing up inflation, bringing up 2025. I don't know if that's for future PR, for congressional hearings' sake, or what I hope, and there is a silver lining to this. The other way I took it was they're aware that sellers are upset. And if that's true, that is ultimately a good thing, right? So they're I'd love to think that they said that because they're walking on eggshells a bit, right? They need to try. They're putting in the effort, at least, effective or not. We're not talking about efficiency of it, but they're putting in the effort to portray themselves as reasonable. Okay. So, and if they're doing that for Congress, that's one thing. If they're doing it for sellers, that could be a good thing in the long run, But like I said, your opinion is going to continue to be your opinion regardless of how I frame it, regardless of how Amazon frames it. So, but that's what we're dealing with. That could have been far, far worse. And only could have been only a little better. Could have been 0, but 8 cents per unit average. I'm not upset about it. I know some of you will be. That's fine. It's regardless if it's a positive, if it's a non-zero number that they're reaching into your pocket, that's going to upset some people, and I don't begrudge anybody for being upset about it. So, all right. So let me see what just happened in the comments section before I move on to the next piece. Silas, flattery will get you everywhere, good sir. Thank you so much. Deal Hunter, I will need help setting up my storefront stalker. I joined OAC Plus a few weeks ago, but I have no idea how to use it or set it up. Send me a message on Discord. We can schedule a one-on-one if you want, or we can try to handle it through the DMs. We could see where you're at, what we have to work with, and get you set up with some good stores that are making you some money. So, hey, Shannon, how are you? Yep. There you go, Artem. Yeah, you do add the storefronts. Like Storefront Stalker Pro, the one thing that remains a bit confusing to people just starting out, Storefront Stalker Pro will only add ASINs as the storefronts that you stalk, as their inventory goes live. It will not go into the store and look at everything that is live on their catalog right now. It won't backfill any data for you. It also won't delete old data, right? If you stalk Joe Schmo, retail store, his stuff's going to pop in there. If you decide it's not a good fit and you remove the storefront from stalking on your dashboard, those ASINs, Joe Schmo's ASINs, are still going to be in there. But then the new storefronts that you add in will start filling in on top of those, as it goes in descending order or reverse chronological order. Shannon, that was I received it in my email. It is also on Seller Central in the news section, I believe, but I got it straight from my email. I just got it a few hours ago. So this is breaking news, people, right? We're hitting you with the hard hitting real time news here. Yeah, the inflation bit, like, really, like we're just gonna hear that and go, oh well, yeah, all right, that's cool. Yeah, Amazon's out to help the little guy. Yeah. I mean, Artem, you're right. Real talk, it really isn't that bad. The email, look, they need to, if they're looking to save some money, they need to fire their copywriters, because they are not any good. But yeah, it's not bad. Could have been far worse, like I said. And if I don't know if anybody can rewind, and strip away all of the jadedness that is built up. If you've been on the platform for a while, it's legit. I actually had ChatGPT run a comparison, because when I saw that line about cheaper than retail, UPS and FedEx retail, yeah, I get that. Cheaper than 3PL, I wasn't sure. Like, I don't know how to calculate that. So I actually had ChatGPT run me through a hypothetical scenario, comparing shipping something FBA versus shipping something 3PL, and then using a carrier like UPS or FedEx. And, the numbers, it shook out. It was cheaper FBA. They continue to have significant discounts. So it's tough to kind of back out of it and take the 30,000 foot level view of things. But it's a little squeeze, but there's still, like I always say, there's an advantage of selling on Amazon still. The opportunity is still continues to be there. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's the fact that they beat us, they've beaten us before, so this feels like a gift. So Silas, you got that right, dude. I've been preaching this since the day it came out. I've been subscriber day one, and I've been singing its praises ever since day one. It is so profitable. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're still unfamiliar with Storefront Stalker Pro, you're probably not unfamiliar with the OAC Plus. I'll have a plug for that later in the show. But remember, when I talk about the OAC Plus, I'm going to mention Storefront Stalker Pro, and I'm going to mention that you get free access. You can stalk 3 stores via Storefront Stalker Pro for free as part of your membership in OAC Plus. And join OAC Plus. Join me on a Monday night. I do a sourcing show. I run at least 90 minutes. I share my dashboard, right? And I'm stalking 40 stores, and I will go through the actual leads in my actual dashboard. I'll think out loud for you, tell you, go through my process, why I like it, why I don't like it, why I'm digging in, why I'm cutting bait, all of that stuff. I'll pull back the curtain on how I source, and I use Storefront Stalker Pro, and it'll become very obvious very quickly that even just 3 stores will pay you back plus more profit for your OAC Plus membership. I mean, that's the facts. They do have some attorney bills, those hourly wages, a few $100s an hour for all those lawyers. So, all right. So the next piece of news that I wanted to share with you is this is basically another example of you can turn statistics into anything that you want them to be, right? I think it was Mark Twain that said there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics, right? So get this, I've got 2 opposing views, right? So depending on who you ask, this holiday season will either be the Grinch's dream or Santa's comeback tour, right? What does that mean? It means 2 major holiday spending reports. One was from Deloitte. The other one was from NerdWallet. They're painting very different pictures of consumer sentiment heading into the 2025 shopping season. What did Deloitte say? They say consumers are pulling back pretty hard. They're planning to spend about 10% less overall this year. The biggest pullback is in Gen Z. They're expecting a decrease of 34% year over year from Gen Z. Nearly 77% of consumers expect higher prices. 89% say that they'll hunt for deals. Why that isn't 100%, I don't know. It's pretty much the bleakest economic outlook since 1997, according to Deloitte. So juxtapose that with NerdWallet. NerdWallet says, their survey says that the average shopper expects to spend $1,107 or $182 more than last year. How they frame that? Consumers plan to spend more, not because they feel richer, but because they expect inflation and tariffs to drive up prices. And actually, they expect prices to continue to increase. So it's almost like they're trying to hedge by spending more right now, which is interesting. So we've got one report showing a pullback, another report showing preemptive overspending, if you will. They're both valid, both contradictory, and they both say a lot about how fractured consumer confidence is right now. So which one's right? Probably both, actually. Deloitte is measuring confidence. NerdWallet's survey was measuring intent. And both of those can coexist. So in other words, basically people feel broke, but they still plan to buy. So think of it as retail's version of doom scrolling with a debit card, right? So why does it matter? What does this matter to us? Well, it's mixed consumer sentiment, and that can lead to volatile sales patterns, right? We can kind of expect, it wouldn't be crazy to expect erratic demand spikes. People will still buy, but they'll delay longer, which we saw that with the Prime event. We saw the vast majority of the sales through the last Prime Days deal was not holiday spending. It was personal expenditures. They'll chase deals harder, and they'll probably pounce on price drops, very quickly. Deal-driven traffic could favor marketplaces like Amazon. Deloitte's data shows 89% plan to seek out deals, with 75% shopping during promo weeks. And that, of course, is music to Amazon's ears. Amazon has their beauty event coming up real soon, I think the end of this month. And then, of course, all of the standard tentpole holiday events. This remains interesting. Luxury and resale are colliding, right? 44% of consumers will consider luxury gifts, but 25% of them may buy pre-owned. That's certainly a trend, not on Amazon, but arbitrageurs can certainly take advantage of that on other marketplaces. If you can source those premium brands below retail, which is kind of what we do. And it's a paradox in retail. It's a pessimistic mindset with coupled with pragmatic behavior. Consumers may say they're spending less, but actions show strategic spending. Fewer gifts, better deals, higher ticket items for fewer people. So, yeah, it's interesting. It may be, I think maybe we might be looking at something where the unit count drops a little less, but probably the overall sticker price per unit is probably where the biggest gap is gonna lay. So, all right. So you have that. So depending on which way you want to look at it, couple that with this piece of news that I'm going to go right into, and then I'll get back to questions and we can talk about it. Amazon is planning to hire 250,000 seasonal workers. Amazon plans to hire 250,000 workers in the U.S. for the upcoming holiday season. That's the same number it's used over the last 2 years. The workers will be employed across Amazon's fulfillment and transportation network. The hourly wages are going to be $23 an hour for full-time and some part-time roles with benefits. And seasonal workers will average over $19 an hour overall. Amazon says it's investing over $1 billion to raise pay and reduce healthcare costs for its U.S. fulfillment and transport employees. The hiring push comes in the face of those consumer sentiment uncertainty, right? Of course, it's fear of tariffs. What would be a show without mentioning the fear of tariffs? But this is interesting. Why does this matter? Why do I bring it up? Why do I piggyback it on the last piece of news? Because this is a signal of optimism, at the very least, thoughtful preparation, right? The fact Amazon's committing to the same hiring number as previous years suggests that it's anticipating a heavy volume this holiday season. That's a positive indicator, especially for us sellers. And it's also interesting because the labor intensity versus automation ROI, right? We know Amazon's spending a whole lot of money to automate their fulfillment centers and their fulfillment network as much as possible. If a big chunk of seasonal volume still requires human staffing, it shows that there's a limit to automation in fulfillment in its current state, right? And it might suggest that automation doesn't fully replace labor, at least not yet. And the margins are going to affect that. So, and actually throw that back to the fee increase too, right? They're not saving money through automation. They still have to rely on these labor forces. And yet we're still only seeing an average of 8 cents per unit. You can see how that kind of plays out. If they do finally make some inroads with automation, maybe fee increases ease up, or they stay minimal like they are this year. So let me know what you think about that. Luke, I don't know how Gen Z can afford to live to begin with. Well, they're proven pretty frugal. I mean, they unlike you millennials, they seem to have a good head on their shoulders, and I really like Gen Z, the stuff that's coming out. They're frugal. They're always looking for deals, saving money. Yeah, I kind of like their spirit. Unfiltered thoughts, people with disposable income will spend money. Yeah, and that's been reflected in a lot of these numbers. They say that a lot of these increases, a lot of these stats that we report on the retail numbers, it is the more affluent. It's the higher income earners. Those are the ones that are spending. And there's repeated signals of a gap between the higher earners, in the middle to lower class. And sentiment seems to indicate that the high earners are kind of keeping the retail numbers in the positive as far as gains year over year and increases and whatnot. It's an interesting concept. It's interesting to see how that may shake out. Flamingo, I think anyone shopping on Amazon is a certain level of well off. See, now that's interesting because I think that's a lack of our. I think that's because we're in the market system. I think we're too close to it um, to really remember how the average consumer views Amazon. I think it gets lost at being an Amazon seller. The fact that Amazon is still viewed as an extremely low cost retailer. I think the majority of the average consumer opinions would still say that Amazon is where I go for bargains. So I think I disagree with you there. Toxic gameplays. Toxic gameplays. How do you guys start your manual sourcing days? There are a lot of different answers to that. Because there are a lot of different places to start. I don't have one particular place. I have. Sometimes I don't even realize my manual sourcing days have started. I'll just kind of see an email somewhere. Something like Sales Gazer or your promotions tab. If you have all of your retailers promo emails, go there. You can see a sale that you like. I'm always partial to site-wide sales. That you can just pull up the sales page of any website, just click through one of the emails that you receive. Say Funko's got site-wide or Box Lunch or something like that. You could start there. If you get Sunday night's Walgreens email always comes out. I used to do that every single week. I'd see what the new BOGO offers were. Buy one, get one free, buy one, get one 50% off. I go to those sales pages, and then I can just right click using a tool like RevSeller or SellerAmp, and that'll pull up a sidebar, and I can actually highlight the title or right click on the hyperlink, and that'll actually pull the title, and RevSeller and SellerAmp will actually look for that title on the Amazon catalog. So you can actually do on-page manual sourcing using those tools. Stuff like that. Sometimes I'll manually storefront stock. As much as I like Storefront Stalker Pro, that's not the only method of storefront stalking that I do. A bunch of different ways to do it. You can start with Keepa. You can go through and start isolating, to start setting corridors up on anything that you want. If there's a certain category that you're looking for or that you want to source more within that category, you can isolate that. You can isolate buy box pricing. I do that quite often. I'll take just simple parameters, maybe maximum sales rank 125 or 150,000 and under. I will take 3 sellers or more, minimum of 3 sellers, and I'll just set the buy box and a couple other random filters in the product finder. And I'll just set my buy box to between $55 and $60, and I'll let Keepa pull up those, and then I'll just kind of start going through those one by one. Ton of different ways to do it. You can go by best sellers if you want to. Something like Tactical Bucket is a tool that I use that can actually pull up that day's best sellers, and I can actually isolate corridors within sales rank, and I can do it that way as well. Tons. Sky's the limit, really. Manual sourcing can go in a bunch of different directions, and they can veer off into numerous different paths as well. It could be difficult to stay on track, or you'll forget where you started sometimes. So hopefully that helps you out. If you have a more specific question, feel free to fire it off. Yeah, I still remember. I remember the days that before everyone knew to kind of I forget what the term is, but basically, I know retailers got real upset before Amazon, and this is going to be a couple decades ago probably, but retailers, I remember there was actually some sentiment that got a little bit of run, that brick and mortar retailers, were upset because people were coming into the store, they were shopping in their aisles, but they had their smartphones up and they were price comparing the store's price to Amazon's price. And the brick and mortar retailers, were upset because they were losing sales because people were able to find it cheaper on Amazon. I remember figuring that out a long time ago, and I thought I was pretty big, the big man on campus, pulling that maneuver. So I remember telling everybody that everybody I could, that's what they should be doing. So I think that's still largely the sentiment. You're right. Almost anything sold by a third party can be found elsewhere online for less. That's true. But I think you'd be surprised how few consumers realize that. We have a lot of skills, and we've developed a lot of skills, a lot of bargain hunting, a lot of stacking. Don't forget the business skills that we've acquired simply by running Amazon stores and building as big a margin, and lowering our buy cost as much as possible. I still talk about basic stuff, and I feel stupid for bringing it up, but then I'll talk to somebody like my mom or my sister or something like that, and they're blown away. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." Like, yeah, been doing it for years. Discount gift cards, they have no idea. I remember in our guy chat, my one buddy was talking about having to get some sports gear. His sons run track, and I was looking at Adidas, and there was like a cashback deal, and then they had like boosted discount gift cards, and I basically put it all together. I said, look, you got 10% cash back here through Rakuten. I've got a 25% off gift card. You could buy $100 gift cards for $75, get 10% on that. So I basically told him, I said, effectively, you can buy Adidas gear at 63 cents per dollar. And I laid it all out for him, and the bubble started popping. He was typing back in the chat, and he goes, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I said, all right, forget it. just do you. That's fine. So we get lost in appreciating the skills that we've acquired. So Bobji, I don't know. Sorry. I'm sure I butchered that probably multiple times. Forgive me. If I work a full-time job, do you recommend prepping yourself or a prep center? That's a great question. I can make a case either way. So it's going to depend on. Sorry, yeah, it does depend. I know we hate answers like that, but what you need to weigh is your limitations. You have time limitations, right? And I don't know if you have, and you have more limitations, more constraints if you have a family too, which I don't know if you do or not. But regardless, even if you don't, you have full-time job, you have full-time hours that you're responsible for showing up. You have whatever social life you decide you want to retain outside of this side hustle. So you kind of you have a smaller window than the people who do this full time. That's a fact. So I think ideally, prep center is the answer because of the time constraints. However, depending on, it sounds like the framing of the question, the context of the question tells me that you might be new. If you are a fairly new seller, it is very valuable to learn how to prep yourself before you outsource it to a prep center. There's certain things that you need to know. There's certain things that prepping items yourself will help you avoid mistakes. There's several things when it comes to prep that you may not realize, and you may find yourself getting your margins eaten into because there was some aspect of the prep process that you weren't aware of. So learn how to do it and ultimately outsource it. That does put pressure on your sourcing. That forces you to build in the cost of the prep, whatever their per unit price is. You have to source according to that. Depending on where you are, if you live in a state with sales tax, a very popular strategy that people use with prep centers is to employ one in a state that doesn't have sales tax. Like we have 6.5% sales tax here in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, where I am. And which basically that means, I haven't done the math in a while, but basically anything that I buy for $23 or more for a buy cost, paying $1.50 in prep is actually saving me money versus paying the sales tax to have it shipped to me. And then I have the time required to prep it myself. So it's actually a bargain. Now, that said, there are ways to get your sales tax back, to get refunds off the sales tax, because the sales tax is going to be paid when you ultimately sell it. So there are certain ways to get that back. I'm not well versed in those methods because I've never gone through it. But yeah, I think ultimately prep center is the goal, as long as you do a couple steps leading up to it. I think just for the time savings, you could put more time into sourcing, and ultimately I think you'll be more efficient if you outsource it to a prep center. Toxic game plays. It's just hard for me to get in front of deals. I have the tools to mine, but I can't find mine. I get it. You know what? You might find it well worth your time to storefront stock then. If you kind of go through, the deals that you do find, take a look at the other sellers that are already on the listing, right? Because this is my answer to when people say, how do I find storefronts to stock? And the answer that I like is, when you're sourcing, if you find a good product, like really nice profit, really nice ROI, good velocity, like I really like this, look at the sellers on the listing. You like them too, or at least one item that they found. You kind of like their style, right? They found it too. They found it a little bit earlier than you did even. So they may have some sourcing strategies that you could learn from, right? So go into their storefront, see what else they're selling, see whatever that brand is. Pull that brand up on Amazon, see what else they have on the Amazon catalog, on the marketplace, that you might be able to find profitably. Because, typically, if you're finding something on sale, a lot of retailers will put multiple items from the same brand on sale. It's not true with clearance necessarily, but if they're running some sort of category wide, chances are you find something Nature's Bounty or something like that. If you can sell it, and Walgreens has it on sale, chances are they're going to have other Nature's Bounty supplements on sale as well. And once you find those on the catalog, those are going to have a list of sellers that are on that listing already too. So then you can just proliferate from there, open up all those storefronts, take a look at what they're selling. And then it's like a tree branch. It just splinters out, and you'll have a ton of opportunities real quick going that method. That's what I would suggest. Hope that helps. Look at Luke talking about the olden days. I thought that was my job. Temu had golden days? Is that de minimis days? Is that what we mean? That's right. That's right. Liam Neeson approves of a very particular set of skills. That is very, very true. People buy on Amazon for convenience, not price. Yeah, they shop on price too. If they didn't shop based on low prices, I don't think the deal days would be quite as popular. I don't think Amazon Black Friday numbers would have the rank that they do among all other retailers as well. And plus, the volume that Amazon's doing, that's not all convenience. Yeah, I don't know. And here's the thing: convenience also has a price. So you could argue. You could argue that that statement is correct because the convenience does carry a price. We see that a lot. That's kind of that's a good avenue for third party sellers. Is the fact that we can compete. It may be at Walmart for $15, but we bought it for 10 and we're selling it for 20 on Amazon, and we have a legitimate shot to get a customer's business because they don't want to go to Walmart. They have to get in the car and they have to drive to spend $15. And we know everyone, we all have somebody in our life that has paid $38 for a hamburger because DoorDash delivered it. So we know that the consumer is willing to pay for that convenience, no doubt about it. But I think price is still. I'll find something on it. I may come loaded with some information come Sunday. I think price is still. I think they're still viewed. I think we might be surprised. I've done as much as I can with reverse sourcing. I can't know for a fact, but I'd call you out on that. I am 100% reverse sourcing, and I run out of capital before I run out of opportunities. I think there's probably untapped potential still in reverse sourcing. But if that's the case, start with a sale, and just start forward sourcing, if that's what the opposite would be called. Go to a sales page and start digging through a BOGO offer. Look up something like salesgazer.com. It's a free inbox. It's one of Chris Grant's products, completely free, but you can set it up so where a certain list of stores delivers their promo emails to that SalesGazer inbox automatically 24/7, right? And so you can actually fine tune the stores that you want to source from, and you can take a look at what the sales are and what's going on. You can kind of pick through it, go to those sites, and start manually sourcing that way. That's definitely a profitable way to do it too. But I also don't think you should give up on reverse sourcing because in my opinion, it's the superior method. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. Yeah, Luke votes for Prep Center. Yep. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna call you Bob, if that's all right. You got a baby on the way, so yeah. So you may not even realize how constrained your time is. So yeah, definitely. If I was leaning Prep Center, I am falling all the way over towards Prep Center at this point. Maurice, I'm wondering what the cutoff date is for shipping to FBA to make it for the holidays. You know what? Amazon lists that. They've talked about it. They send emails about that. Honestly, I don't know because I don't pay any attention to it. Um, because I never stop shipping. Uh, that's just I kind of I think of it as me playing the long game. Because I still need to get solid sales numbers in the month of January, in the month of February. Um, I'm not doing a bunch of seasonal stuff. It's not something that I kind of bear down and focus on to a large extent. So, but you should be able to find that in Seller Central. Um, Amazon, the dates that Amazon's going to give you are probably more conservative than reality. There's probably far more stuff that's going to be able to get in there. I think Amazon kind of just sets it up as best practices, um, or wishful thinking, right on their part. They'd love to have everything in by November or something, for holiday season, but that's just uh, that's not reality, really. So. Toxic gameplays. I need a consistent source of leads to meet my business growth needs, and consistency of inventory is the reason why I'm not seven figures yet. You should probably consider a lead list is a good option. There's a bunch of opportunities from there. Basically that's a trained, an experienced Amazon seller uh, vetting leads for you, and then there's a ton of rabbit trail opportunities outside of that. You find you're going to learn, a good lead list is going to show you not only profitable products within the parameters that they set up, that they tell you about up front. They're going to give you coupon codes, hopefully that you can't easily find yourself. Those coupon codes are probably going to be applicable to other products from that store as well. So there's entire categories that you can rabbit trail off of one lead from a lead list. They're going to clue you into cash back. They're going to clue you into brands, not only stores, but brands that you can look up. You can proliferate one lead on a lead list into numerous opportunities. So that might be something that you want to look into. It may be a little bit too late, but there's also Q4 groups. That's a massive volume of leads. That window, most of those windows have closed. But I know there's some out there that for whatever reason, you can you can infer whatever reason you want to, but there are surprise reopenings on some of these Q4 groups. So that's another option. Usually that's 10 to 20 leads like every single day. There are a lot of people in the groups typically, but if it's opportunities that you're looking for, like I said, there's rabbit trailing and there's all sorts of nooks and crannies to explore outside of specific lead that they'll give you. I shouldn't even try. Bellic? Can't be too far off, right? Fellow seller recommended me a list of proven suppliers or websites. There are tens of thousands of products. How would you approach sourcing? What software or methods? Tens of thousands of products. Depending on how they're broken up, there's software that you can use. I think all of the major automated sourcing tools. I don't know. I'm not even sure what that term would be. But I know Nepeto has an upload feature. I believe I've seen somebody use that. Tactical Arbitrage is a tool that I use. I upload stuff all the time. What's the other? Arbitrage Hero, maybe. I saw a video. Somebody was using a video, and they ran through like 3 tools. Nepeto was one. I think it was Arbitrage Hero, and there's even another one out there. There's automated stuff. Now that's going to miss a lot. Software like that can't be as thorough. It's not going to catch everything that a manual review would do, but you can get through that information very, very quickly, and most likely be provided a sizable list of what the software says are matching products on the Amazon catalog. That's one way to do it. If you have a VA, you can outsource the review of those products to a VA or tag team it. If you have, you said fellow seller, so if you know other sellers, you could tag team it with another seller, and just get a couple, 2, 3, 4 of you together, and if it's 20,000, get 4 sellers, each one gets 5,000 products, and you manually source it, and you share the leads. It's minimal exposure. It's just 4 of you. Just make a promise. Make a pact to not the listing. Don't price fix. It's a big no-no. Just a knowing glance, like, don't tank it, jackass. In a an understanding. You could do it that way, or keep all the profit yourself and manually go through it. Do something like just right clicking, like the sale page that I mentioned earlier. Use a tool like SellerAmp or RevSeller. Highlight the title, right click it, and have RevSeller or SellerAmp search that title on Amazon. It actually goes surprisingly quick, depending on how fast you are at analysis. But it's not terribly daunting to do it that way either. Let's see. All right, Luke's backing me up. We're getting along pretty well this show, Luke. I'm a little fearful for what the rest of the show. We only have 5 more minutes, but yeah, I still go to Amazon for price. If Best Buy was $20 cheaper, I'd be going there, but they never are. Best Buy is rarely ever the cheapest. Let's see. Silas, appreciate you, my man. Carlos, what do you upload to TA for scanning? TA has a wholesale feature, so you can upload wholesale lists. I don't have any experience doing that myself, but basically you can. There's a couple different tools. I use Tactical Expander to pull ASINs out, and I believe the paid version of oh my gosh, what is Derek's OA Gadget? I think the paid version of OA Gadget can extract ASINs. Basically you just need to get the ASIN onto a spreadsheet, CSV file, I should say, and you can upload those. All right, so we got 5 minutes left. Hey, another thing I want to mention is Walmart and OpenAI. They started a partnership. Walmart and OpenAI are partnering so that customers can make purchases directly within ChatGPT using their feature, Instant Checkout. The Instant Checkout function debuted earlier with Etsy and Shopify, and Walmart's joining the group. Initially, the feature supports single item purchases with plans to expand to multi-item carts later. For merchants, opting into instant checkout may affect how OpenAI ranks them, all right, which is interesting. OpenAI will consider instant checkout enablement when ranking merchants selling the products. A bit pay to play, a little bit there. And I'm pretty sure Amazon's getting in trouble for something that sounds pretty similar, but anywho, why does it matter? New shopping frontier, right? Which means a new shopping frontier is a new battleground. If ChatGPT becomes a commerce front front end rather than just a search or assistant, the platform becomes a rival channel to Amazon. That's unfortunately that's what we'd be looking at. And competition isn't a bad thing, though. That enablement premium, if you want to call it, because OpenAI will consider whether merchants support instant checkout when ranking. Being on that feature will certainly give you a boost. Fees and margin impact are interesting. Merchants have to pay a fee for this service, right? And probably more than 8 cents per unit on average. So it's not necessarily free market expansion, but it's a cost that you'll have to calculate in your margins. Walmart, why does it matter? Because it's a first mover advantage for Walmart. Walmart's getting in early. That's going to give them a leg up, and it's going to force Amazon and other platforms to respond if this catches on. And popular opinion seems to think that it will, or at least that's the cool article to write right now, at least. For Amazon sellers, it means we need to be alert for whatever Amazon does as a countermeasure, whether that be tighter integration with AI, new features, or new partnerships with AI companies. We'll want to keep up on that. And of course, me and Chris will do our best to keep you up on that. So, and then there's the consumer expectation, right? If consumers get used to AI chat, to instant checkout, to delivery, they'll start expecting other platforms to match that convenience or that level of low friction, right? That's going to raise the bar on the user experience. So we'll need to be able to adapt to the lower friction paths that consumers may get used to, or be ready to ride whatever Amazon does to match it. So, another piece of news. I'm cramming this in, right? So this one is hat tip to Scott Needham. Okay, if you don't follow Scott Needham, it's his Twitter handle is It's Scott Needham. That's him on Twitter. Basically, this is just me reading his tweet. I didn't have a link to this or anything, but Chinese Amazon sellers may now have to pay taxes. The Chinese government is requesting Amazon give revenue numbers, and for the first time, Amazon will be handing over revenue and entity information to the Chinese government. What does that mean? Chinese sellers are they're a dominant force on international marketplaces, and they haven't had to report revenues to their government till this point. This would leave them unable to disclose revenues and profits. Scott says that's about to change. He says while many U.S.-based sellers have been clamoring for Amazon to even the playing field, they think it's an unfair advantage. It's hard to argue against that. It looks like the Chinese government is finally taking that step. U.S. sellers have been paying full taxes for years, and Scott argues that feels like an unfair playing field. So possibly a leveling. I think this is very interesting. Again, thank you, Scott Needham, for mentioning that. That's a tweet that he put out just yesterday, and apparently in the tweet it says like this information wasn't given to U.S. sellers. It was only through he had a link to a Chinese newsletter related to Amazon. So that is something to watch. The impact of it to be determined, of course, but I know that that gets some traction anytime that topic comes up. From U.S. sellers, they get pretty fired up about it. So, all right, let me see if I missed anything. All right. So we're at an hour, 6:31 right now. So I have a choir concert to get to. So unless you have anything real quick, we're gonna have to call it a show here. Chris Grant and myself will be back to do this all over again on Sunday. We do this twice a week, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays and Wednesdays, every single week. Chris, it was a volleyball game, but we think that that may be about done as far as the Wednesday games go. So this may be my only, or this may be my last solo show for a while, which I'm sure many of you are will be happy to hear. So, all right. So we're gonna call that a show. Have a great rest of your week. I hope we'll see you again on Sunday. Come back, hang out, ask questions. We're here for you after all. So, all right, guys and gals, I will talk at you later.